Just gonna wait for that to be done. Jesus Christ, that is loud. Blood. What is that? What on earth, man? Holy moly! Oh my god! Oh my god! Okay. So, we're going to do a rundown of Week 5. Week 5, which is the upcoming week of the LEC. We have some matches to predict. This is the round where teams get eliminated. We're going to top off with a little tier list in terms of who is the biggest contender to win it all and so forth. Let's start off simple, okay? Hello gorgeous, just interrupting the video real quick because I wanted to let you know that I co-stream all of LPL. All of LPL, the reason I say this is because LPL playoffs is on. LPL playoffs, you have teams being eliminated, best of 5s on 13-13. Shit is very, very exciting. If you miss it for some reason, you can't watch it live because you have a real life, you have a job, no problem. You can just check out YamatoCannon TV where all full VODs are just being uploaded, where you can catch the full games, spoiler free. Catch you guys there, both live and outside of it. Peace. G2 versus XL. So XL as a team, I think that I've talked about this so many times. I think XL as a team, they really, you know, they deserve so much props for what the work they've put in as like in terms of coaching. I think props to the coaching staff and props to the veteran players, whoever is involved in the process of figuring out the patch. I think that's absolutely massive. You know, that's absolutely great and massive. I think respect. XL is a team that I think has found their peak. I don't think that peak is that high though. And that's my main concern and issue with XL, and why I'm not going to hype up XL. I think that XL as a team, they've reached their peak. I think that Patrick is playing well. I think Limit is playing well. Limit on Engaged Champs, he's finding his old self again. I think Patrick has good form. I think Odoamne in the current meta with the Rumble play and being able to play the tanks and the Renekton, he seems very, very comfortable here. I do think though that XL individually, they just don't have enough gas in the tank to even beat G2 on their worst day. I think XL as a team, the fact that they've found their peak and they're playing at their ceiling in terms of their potential, in terms of what the roster is, I think just massive props to the coaching staff. But I think in a lot of these games, right, for example, XL versus Mad, the first series that they played, Kai'Sa, Rel, Rumble, and then after the first game, they also get a Rel Rumble throwback. I think this is something that is very strange, right? I think this is something XL prep were very solid, very, very good. And then the same thing coming into the series against SK, right? I think XL had some good drafts to play out, but there was a lot of cases where like Peach is getting caught out randomly. Abedage after lane phases, bleeding out, like losing limbs and bleeding. Even in this LeBlanc game, which was arguably one of the best Abedage games of the year, he was so far behind in lane phase, which is something that is so concerning. I think in terms of the individual ceiling, I think it's relatively low, but XL, they have found and figured out ways to win games together, which I think is a big plus. Do I consider that XL a top 3 team in the region based off of their standings right now? No, I don't think so. I do believe that in the current format and in the current form, they have found their ceiling way faster than everybody else. If you look at everybody else around them, right? Mad Lions is struggling super hard. Fnatic struggles super hard. But I do believe these teams have higher ceiling. But XL, that's the main thing, right? They really deserve props for the fact that these homies have figured out the meta well, and they've converted that into plenty of wins and caught teams while they were slipping, you know? Mad Lions is one of them, and SK on the other side, we'll talk about them more later, but I think all in all, you know, I don't think XL will stand a chance against G2. I've been saying this the entire season. I think, you know, as we are making this tier list, G2, I've said this the entire season, and nothing has been shown to me that would push G2 out of this. I don't know, the planes are just, they're never stopping, man. I'm closing the window. So, I think G2 is the Western hope. G2 is a team that seem to have a very, very good methodology in terms of how they improve. They found a way to improve in a region that is struggling. They have many very strong draft ideas. I think that it's pretty damn interesting. I think G2 is the only team that can do anything internationally. And that's it. And I think that every team that is facing G2 is coming into it as heavy underdog. So obviously I think G2 is just going to 3-0 XL. I would be surprised if XL even take one game. Final thing on XL, Quesmat 1 asks, XL has a good roster? No, I don't think XL's roster is that great. I think that right now, Limit is playing well. Limit is playing super well. I think Patrick is playing well. I think Uramna is playing well. But I still think Peach and Abadage are just not good enough, you know? I think Limit has had a very, very good run. And Limit, you can see that Limit is aware of very, very key details in terms of how he should team fight, which I think is a super big plus. But that's it. You know? I think that's not enough to carry games, you know? I think the flaws of how Peach and Abadage play is really, really rough. Like if you look back at, for example, this game where they had the Jay Sejuani and they were super fucking strong in the game. They didn't leverage that well enough, and I think the 2v2s around mid, the 3v3 rounds mid is just imprecise. They're getting caught before key moments that are making these games a lot more contested than they should, and I think this just comes from the individual point. But once again, I think Limit and Oruamne, Patrick, I think they have played well. Okay. We continue. So I already talked about the best of 5. We got the easy out of the way. Let's talk about the other series. So let's start ourselves off in the Koi versus Team Heretics. So Koi as a team, right? I think Koi as a team, they are fairly limited. But I think the key thing for Koi is that I think that they managed to come out of lane phases in good form. They managed to come out of lane phases in good form, and I think that Larson is actually playing well. I think that in terms of the players that can hold the gun, I think that Comp and Larson, they are strong enough players to actually carry games when they are ahead. But the main issue for Koi is that they are very, very disconnected in the mid game. Before the game shoehorns you into Drake fights, they tend to die a lot on side, they tend to be targets on side, they die on mid, and they struggle really hard to be effective as a support jungle duo. Their super jungle duo really, really is disoriented. They don't know how to control the flow and the pacing of the map. And I think this is where Team Heretics can gain value, because Jankos is such an engine. If Team Heretics is going to win this series is off of the back of either Jankos completely 1v9s because he dominates the early game and then just pulls Mercer around to actually make the mid game somewhat eligible for success, or somehow Koi completely dropped the ball and let the enemy mid lane Viteo play either LB or Kaiser. I think that's where you need to hit the denials. You know, it's like if I think about the key champions in this matchup, I wouldn't be surprised if Team Heretics open up with banning, for example, Larson Tristana to set up the LB and the Kaiser for success. And then with the LB like you ban LB Kaiser red side, for example, for Koi, and then you have this dynamic game where you get to see how well these teams have practiced Ivern, and then you get to see the game open up a lot more. And I think that in terms of Adrian versus Mercer, I think it's plain and simple, you know, I think they are very similar in terms of impact in the game. I think that Shigenda is better than Evi. I think that Larsen, generally speaking, I think he performs better than Veteo. I think Veteo has that edge that is LB and Kaiser is very ready for gameplay. But I'm assuming that Koi is going to target this and attack this, right? If I just pull up a paint, right? Pull up a paint. It's like Team Heretics. They need to just make sure that Tristana is out. And I think that if you are, for example, from red side, I think as long as you set up cases where you are doing exactly this, Kaiser, Rel, and then LB, I feel like this is a winning recipe for Koi. I think you invite the Ivan and you see what's up. Janko's Ivan didn't look good enough, you know? And I think that you play games where you look for Poppy / Trundle, you know, for Malang, you know, or Seju. And then you look for like Zaira Khan cases and angles, you know? And I think that Comp is a very, very strong player. Bottom line is, right, I think that Shigenda beats Evi. You know, the main issue for Evi, right, is that he doesn't have a role on this team that isn't plainly negative. Evi has sometimes fine lane phases, but then he TPs, he roams, gives up the whole game. Like it's crazy to watch Evi play. Somehow he manages to top himself in terms of how bad a potential performance could be. Like the most recent one when he played, of course, Ornn and full sent the game. I think Evi is such an anchor for Team Heretics. So in my mind, I think Koi wins this one. I think Koi is favored to win this game against Team Heretics. The conditions for Team Heretics to win, in my mind, is Veteo on either Kaiser or LB, or Jankos completely runs the game. But then again, I don't think Malrang is that terrible. You know, Malrang gets value. You know, he gets value. He sells himself, but he gets value. And I think in such a series, Koi can convert that value. Another concern is, once again, Koi sometimes throw away their games between 15 and 25 minute mark. Like their conversion of positions, that's where they struggle. You know, Larsen dying on side and so forth. This can become a problem, and I think that Team Heretics can definitely capitalize here. So we'll see. We'll definitely see. We will definitely see. He's just Adam, but even worse in all aspects. Not necessarily. It's like Adam, he was very similar to Adam when he played in LJL. But back then, in LJL, Evi was a big fish in a small pond. Right? And teams were built around him. Evi was the guy who was a complete psychopath, and teams were built around him. And he gained value out of that. He was playing the Gnar, he was playing Tryndamere, he was a strong Akali player, he was playing Urgot. You know? Like, I was watching him and preparing for him during the World Championship last year, right? And when he beat EG, like you would never see such psychopath gameplay. And everyone on his team bought into that. And now he's playing the role of playing these tank players, and he's completely solo losing the game, you know? But at the same time, right, the level is completely different, the environment's completely different, so replicating that, whatever he did in LGL, like they haven't even tried at all, you know? It's like, he has lane phase, and in LGL, it's like, his team just played his way. So whatever he cooked up, they were committed to his idea. So it's like Evi just doesn't fit, and he's straight up liability coming into this matchup, and I think Koi is actually favored. Either way, I think both of these teams would lose against BDS, right? Both of these teams are going to lose against BDS. BDS had a relatively fine performance against G2. Honestly, they had a relatively fine performance against G2. And I think, you know, BDS, currently performance-wise, right? From all of these teams that we've seen, I think, genuinely, that BDS is the second best performer. I'm not saying they are the second best team in the league. That's I have yet to decide. But I think BDS had the second best performance. The key thing for BDS, the big switch up for BDS in regards to their regular split, the 9 games, and additionally, right, like the biggest difference, it was just Shio's performance. I think it's very good for BDS that Nuke found a champion that he's comfortable on. I think that's really big. He has room to actually, you know, play the Casio in some matchups. I think that's a big plus for Nuke too. And I think his Jace was relatively decent. I think that's really important. The BDS having mid lane champions that they can find, like, oh, that they're effective on, I think is big. That's nice. Additionally, Shio just has much better form. He's actually playing the game, securing the map, gaining leads for bot, which enables Krani and Labrov to actually do more in the game. I think that in this series versus G2, I think the biggest flaw is in the fact that, you know, I think Adam as a player, he's very good against players that are worse than him. But if he's playing players that are on equal grounds or better, he tends to become a straight up liability. And that's just the nature of the champions that he plays, right? It's like Darius, Olaf, Garen. These champions are good when they're ahead, but they are walking pieces of meat if they are behind, right? It's very natural. And G2, to be fair, they had very good plans. Like they used Nautilus Flash to burn Olaf Flash, and then they set up the set into the Olaf. That was a very good, like a very good preparation there. They had, you know, ban Renekton against Adam to remove like the strongest blind he has in the current meta. Pick Jax, that is really performing well in the meta. Like G2's preparation for this BDS series was super, super good, you know? And can I see a world where Koi and Team Heretics replicate that? Koi, maybe. Because the last time Koi played against BDS, what actually happened in this game, even though BDS won, Shigenda actually solo killed Adam's Olaf with a Keisante, right? So Shigenda as a laner is strong and will hold his own, so I wouldn't be concerned there. But I think in terms of game conversion and Shio's relevance in the game, I think Shio matches up well to Malrang, and I think that BDS would beat both of these teams on the day on the qualification match. I think BDS is the favorite to make it out of this cluster that we're seeing. Okay? And I think that BDS, you know, I think a very important thing for 13-13 is just how these teams maneuver draft, right? Because, for example, in game 1, Team Heretics had a very, very nice setup here. Very nice setup with the Kaiser, Nautilus, Renekton. Tristana, Sejuani, Darius was locked in, and the Trundle Ziggs just really, really formed the composition together. And BDS didn't know how to convert a side lane game, and Darius is a non-factor in this game because Vayne and Tristana want to play side, and no one wants to be on mid, right? Then as everything extended, right, it's like you have this setup from BDS where they went for the Lilia. This was super, super neat, super nice. I like that. And then finally in this game as well with the Renekton and the Jace. And this is something that I think teams would actively look to target, right? Because BDS did in fact get 2 back-to-back Jace wins, and Team Heretics really got stuck on this Tristana idea, even though Team Heretics on Tristana looked very, very poor. I think Tristana is a champion where you can't get away with being mediocre. And that's what we're seeing a lot of, right? When it comes to mid lane in Europe, we see a lot of mediocrity. And that's why, like, a lot of the champions that are OP in the current meta, you don't get away with mediocrity. Because if you play mediocre on LB or Tristana, you are straight up a liability. You're straight up a problem. You are going to weigh your team down. Like, if you're playing Jace and you're mediocre, you're like, okay, that's like, you know, you're going to shoot some EQs, you're going to be a force in the game regardless. Same for Azir, right? But LB Tristana, if you are not playing these champions at a very high level, you're just going to be a straight up problem, right? And that matters. So I think that BDS really cleaned up their draft in the 2-3, but it's very important that they find something that allows them to elevate beyond the Jace, because Jace does make your composition very streamlined, because you're going to have that range advantage and you're going to be able to provoke the enemy to engage into you. So the Graga setup is super, super good and so forth, right? So that's important to keep in mind. But I think it's very important here for BDS, like basically LeBlanc, Kai'Sa, make sure that the enemy team can't play these champs. Because here the BDS figured it out, right? LeBlanc out, Kai'Sa, LeBlanc out, never let them again after that first initial game. Don't let Veteo play those static shift champs. That is the edge he has coming into this, right? And I think Koi will replicate the same. Very important. So the main curiosities to just to finish off this one is, what will BDS do beyond Jace? Because the jungle bans are not necessary against BDS. You'd rather ban the Jace, because banning Maokai doesn't matter too much, because they're willing to play the Lilia, they're willing to play the Dragoon, right? So Jace will be a ban against BDS for sure. And I think Koi just need to walk into this series denying Kai'Sa and, of course, all static shifts, no matter what. What Heretics should do to win? I think the most important thing for Team Heretics is, my main issue with it is that I don't see a world where they can squeeze value out of the fact that, you know, the enemy team gets to target ban mid. I think the level we saw from Veteo's Tristana, if he has practiced a lot of Tristana coming into this week, and all of his Tristana is a force, and the Tristana Ivan actually looks like something that they can do well with, and they get room to blind pick Renekton 1, 2, 3 for Evi, I think that could be better. You know, that could be something. That could be an angle. I think the key thing here, the key player is, of course, Jankos. Can Jankos really turn into a massive engine? And we'll have to see. But my issue still with Team Heretics is that I'm not a big believer of Mersa, not a big believer in Evi at all. And that's it, you know. Can Flacket carry? I think Flacket is serviceable, but it's like in the AD meta, you're kind of restricted now to what the other champs in the games are doing. It's like, you're not going to be the driving force. It's like you're going to be playing Xayah and so forth, and that's it. Alright, let's take a look at the other side of the bracket. Fnatic versus Mad is a very interesting one, right? Because we have to really go off a lot of things that we don't necessarily see. Because if we go off the things that we saw, both of these teams looked really fucking bad. Insanely bad. They looked insanely bad in both of their series. Let's be honest. Mad Lions more so in terms of their meta read, in terms of like their meta read. And additionally, I think Mad Lions, you know, I think they live and die by the performance of Hylissang and Elioya. And both of them heavily underperformed against XL. Like they got outperformed by their counterparts. If someone told me at the beginning of the year Peach and Limit would smoke Elioya and Hylissang on a barbecue and distribute it amongst their teammates, and everyone was fed and eating good, I would be like, who is Peach? You know? So, in a world where Hilly, right now, Hilly is full on, you know, he can play the engage supports, he should be feeling good, you know, in this round, he had the Rakan, you know. At the same time, right, it's like, you look at Mad Lions, in terms of understanding their own identity, it's very strange to me, right? If I look at this setup here, right? Okay, XL, they really understood the patch. They have Kai'Sa, Rel, Rumble, 1, 2, 3. They drop 4, 5, Listen, Ari, cool. Like here I thought, okay, they have Jace. They're gonna send Jason to Rumble. Chasey with a Sejuani on 4 and then 5 pick mid, counter into Ari. I thought, wow, they're going to have a good time. Maybe this is the angle. Xayah Rakan, I don't mind it too much against Kaiserel. Sounds good to me. But then we have this extension of Ornn, which I think Chasey shouldn't play tanks, period. If it's not K'Sante, don't play a tank. Here he's picking Ornn. I don't understand where this Ornn came from. No idea where this Ornn came from. I feel like Mad Lions are always in that limbo where they have to figure out their identity, and then all of a sudden we will see the Mad Lions that we recognize. I feel like their backs need to be up against the wall a little bit more, and then their instincts kind of kick in a way that makes sense. As weird as it might sound, I feel like the fact that Mad Lions are already qualified for the regional playoffs is a bad thing for them. Because I inherently believe when their backs are up against the wall, they manage to squeeze a lot more, and there's an element of confidence that they have in those situations that is really helpful. And we've seen that throughout this year and also in past times too. It's like this entire roster have, like, all individual players besides Chasey have ran gauntlets. They've ran gauntlets and they've made miraculous comebacks through and through, and they've pushed all the way, you know? All of their players have. Hilly has, Niski has. Remember the amount of fucking BO5s that Elioya reverse swept against Rogue? You know, these guys really have good instincts in situations where their backs are up against the wall. And the reason I'm talking about things that are less tangible is because you kind of have to. Because if we judge it based off the performance on the day, then you have two shit teams playing against each other. And you have to make the assumption that when you look at these players in terms of the adjustments they should be able to make between a week and what the potential play, like what their potential is, you have to kind of look into history to paint a clearer story. Because here, Mad Lions with a very poor meta read and Elioya with a very poor performance in my mind. I think that picking Nocturne is like, it's all right, you know, and that's it, you know. I think everything that needed to be said about Mad Lions has been said, right? I think the main thing for me is just I have expectations that Elioya and Hilly will do better coming into the next best of 3. On Fnatic's side, you know, Fnatic throughout the entire regular split. So Fnatic to me, you know who they remind me of? Fnatic remind me of Vitality. Fnatic remind me of Vitality. Not the Vitality of this season, of course, because that's unique to Vitality, but of the previous ones, okay? So basically, what did Vitality in spring and winter, okay? So what was unique about spring and winter Vitality is in the regular split, they were very good at getting leads. Very good at getting leads. Why did they get leads? It's because they were individually better. They weren't doing anything cohesive. They were just like Razork was finding really good gank angles. They were securing lanes and they found leads because they simply played better. Oscarinin was getting kills, mid lane was out farming, and bot lane was getting kills, right? And they played a lot of game positions from being far ahead. And I think now, as the meta has shifted, they are not getting the same leads. And the fact of the matter is that they look quite clueless as the game progresses when the game hasn't ballooned out of control. I think an additional layer to all of this conversation is that Fnatic, in terms of their draft preparation, was god-awful. Very bad. In my mind, right, it's like they played 2 back-to-back Azir games. In terms of what we know and what we see, it's like Fnatic are banning LeBlanc on blue side. Does this show? This just shows to me, right, that they don't want to play LB. They are not. They don't want to play into LB, right? They don't want to play into LB, which shows to me that Kai'Sa and Tristana mid is unlikely. Kai'Sa Tristana mid is unlikely, and additionally, LeBlanc mid is unlikely. So what is Humanoid actively playing in the meta, right? That to me is a concern. That to me is just a concern. Let's just pull up their LoL pros. Let's see what's up. Let's pull up the LoL pros and let's see what's up. What is Fnatic actually cooking? You know, because I'm genuinely curious. Let's do the multi op.gg. There we go. Wait, that's the wrong one. Razor Activo, Ari, Rumble, Kindred, Papi Oscar, Rumble, Renekton. Okay, where's the mid laner? Kog'Maw, where's the mid laner? I might have him on friend list. Wesley Warren Jr. What are you doing? What you doing, son? Tristana. Well, finally, mate. Finally. That's good. Tristana Jace. Yes, please play Tristana Jace. Really big. That is important. Very important. If Fnatic play Tristana Jace and they have Rumble ready and they can play Maokai jungle, that makes their draft so much better. This is very big. If Marek Brazzolini is ready to play Jace and he's ready to play Tristana, that's a big step up. Because this was a big concern of mine for Fnatic, you know? Like, before I open up this op.gg, my mind was leaning towards Matt because of this flaw. But now due to this is very big, very important. So back to the initial conversation, right? It's like they banned LB and they picked Azir and they had no intention at all. For example, here, right? Enemy first pick Kai'Sa. You don't go Maokai Tristana. Just shows to me as a very, very big flaw. Very, very big flaw. Super, super big flaw. Niski is still just better in this meta than Humanoid though, even if Humanoid practices these champions for a week. I disagree. I disagree. I think you prefer to have Niski in the Annies and the Annies and the Aries and connect with your jungler type of champs, but I don't think the mid meta is that right now. I think if you're willing and capable of playing like Jace and Tristana, I don't think this is Niski's strength. So at least in my mind, I think the fact that Fnatic, if they are willing to play, like for example here, if the enemy first picks Kai'Sa and they go Maokai Tristana and they keep Tristana flex into Kai'Sa and then they match on 3, that's a really, that's really big. I'll take Niski on LB Jace over Humanoid. Okay, I think you're smoking crack, Steph Curryson. There you're smoking crack. I'm not gonna lie. I think you're smoking crack. Because if Fnatic were willing to pick Maokai Tristana here, I think it changes the dynamic of the BO5. And I think the read on what they should have done with mid, I think is just poor. Really, really poor. Let's see what else is here. Kalista. Oh, that's interesting. I'm excited to see this. Okay. All right. Let's do a little temperature check here on Mad Lions. Yon. Yeah, because of your EDG prediction. But now you're talking... Now you're talking bollocks. All right. Either way. Either way, it's like I think with the personalities on Fnatic, I think this is a team that can definitely struggle. It's like it's the first time they experienced true loss, right? With this dynamic. You know? They've been through a honeymoon phase and now their intangibles get tested. And I know from experience that they don't have the strongest individuals there, you know, they don't have individuals that can pull a group together. So they experience a true loss, right? So that's going to be a very big test for Fnatic. It's like if they walk into game 1 and something goes wrong, how quick can they bounce back from that? You know, that shit is very. That's going to be a big question because Mad Lions have the resilience and the toughness of any team, right? I think in terms of the intangibles, I think this is where Mad Lions have an edge. But in terms of my expectations for Fnatic's preparation, I can see a world where Fnatic wake the fuck up and play the right mid laners. You know? They play the right mid laners, and just because they're playing the right mid laners, they will play the right junglers too. And I think that's a big plus. Really, really big plus. Because I repeat, if, for example, enemy first pick Kai'Sa, and you are capable of picking Tristana Maokai here, then all of a sudden you have a draft going, you know? You're going to play the game. You're going to have a draft going for yourself, you know? Or go Maokai Jace is also an angle, right? But Tristana you can match into Kai'Sa, and let's say the enemy picks Jace, and then you pick a different champion to Jace, and then you play the game, and you expand on that, right? And I think there's a lot of room to breathe then. That to me is where things become more interesting. You know? And I think this is a big flaw of Fnatic. I think as they were playing the games, they realized, you know, oh shit, we're not getting leads, and we are actually getting outscaled, and we are playing stupidly bad. You know, they looked very, very lost in these games. So now, for me, and my prediction. Who is getting eliminated? Who is getting eliminated? Who is getting eliminated? Who is getting eliminated, guys? Fnatic are heavy favorites betting wise. I think that's just Fnatic fans, you know, high on copium. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be close. It's like I think I favor Mad Lions based off of their experience and the intangibles, but I think Fnatic can come into the series with better prep. The funny thing though is, my mind also wants me. It's like my mind is telling me that either Fnatic and Mad can beat SK. That's what's so weird about this, you know. Even though SK completely shat on Fnatic. I think all in all, I think SK is fucking terrible. I'm not gonna lie, I think SK is terrible. Like SK, they get good leads when Markoon is like in a flow state, you know. They have some niche picks that work really well for them. I think Irrelevant is strong. Exit Kick and DOS, they are like decent. But like, how on earth are they losing some of these spots that they have in games, man? It's like the logical side of me, just because of like nameplates, wants me to believe that Fnatic and Mad are both going to be favorites against SK. The more and more I think about it, damn, LEC is struggling. Jesus, LEC. Jesus, LEC. I think the main thing for SK, you know, what gives me some sense of like reservation about not giving up on SK completely is that at least the way they throw and the way they lose is controlled completely by their own decisions, right? Because they do have strong leads from early. I think for the purpose of not getting stuck here for too long, probably I'm going to just predict Fnatic over Mad this time around. And then, I don't know, SK versus Fnatic rematch. It's tough to predict without knowing more. Because that series against SK was ugly for Fnatic. Very ugly. Yeah, this is very tough to predict, honestly. Very tough to predict, in my mind. It's like Steph Curry Sip just wrote in chat that Mad Lions is heavy betting underdog. I think that's crazy, by the way. I think that's crazy. This is a series that can definitely go both ways. This is a coin flip, in my mind. Honestly, let's do that. Let's flip a coin. Let me find a coin and I will flip it. And that will be my prediction. I'll find a coin. Let me find a coin. Coin flip on Google? Yeah, let's do that instead. Wait. I didn't call it. All right. Heads, Fnatic, tails, Mad Lions. Heads. Fnatic wins. Fnatic versus SK. Let's flip another coin. SK win. All right, there we go. That's my prediction. Nah, I should put my analytical prowess on the line. Let's be honest. Okay. Now, fuck the coin. Mad Lions is making the run, guys. Mad Lions is making the run. Fuck the coin. Mad Lions is beating both. I'll believe in Mad. Fuck the coin. There's no way Elioya and Hilly are gonna play this shit, man. They're gonna wake the fuck up. They're gonna wake the fuck up. It's Elioya and fucking Hilly sang, man. They're gonna wake the fuck up, you know? If Niski and Kazi are fucking performing, man, and the only thing that needs to happen is fucking Hilly and Elioya waking the fuck up, let's go, man. Let's go. Fucking Mad Lions. Mad Lions all the way. Let's go. Let's do the tier list. G2 at the top. G2 at the top. This is gonna be a fucking rough tier list to make. It's with Astralis and... what are they called? Who's the last team that went out? Oh shit. Alright, that's D. Assist. Damn. Alright, so no one is A tier. I think BDS is the second best performer. It's like if anyone is there, then it's BDS. And then for the rest, right, it's like, keep in mind, I'm doing this tier list. This is the tier list for who is contender, okay? Who are the contenders? To actually like do some damage, okay? Fuck, I can't find XL. Yeah, the issue, right? So why? I'm just gonna give like my explanation for what I've showed to you guys, right? It's like currently I might move Koi higher. It's like, you know, XL and Team Heretics. What these teams have done, right? XL should be in front of SK? I don't think so. Even though they lost, I don't think so. So, Team Heretics and XL, the format has really benefited them. And they've done a very, very good job, which is not something that is easy to do. They've done a very, very good job of assessing. They've done a very good job of assessing what to play on the patches. And I think that has made them better. Mad Lions on the and Fnatic on the other side, they've done a horrible job of assessing this. But I still think the individual level of these teams, the upside, is way higher. With time, the players of Mad Lions and Fnatic will beat out the other teams on C tier. Is it enough time coming into this weekend? Maybe not. That's what's so weird about making these predictions and also this tier list. Maybe not. But in terms of Mad Lions and Fnatic's meta read, it's just been so terrible. So terrible. But the upside on an individual basis needs to be highlighted here. Do you think G2 is held back by the level of the league? Everyone is held back by the level of the league. The same way overweight people are held back by what they eat. Yeah, this is why land, ladies and gentlemen. Not true though. But what are you gonna say that is so clever? Let's hear it up your ass. I'm gonna let you one guy me. Let's hear it. What's so clever? What's your clever comeback? Let's hear it. All right, so we waited for nothing. Great. Okay. Do you think FlyQuest can beat G2? Like, in a physical fight? I could see, like, Impact being good in a fight. I think, like, Yike, Mickey, Caps, these homies, they are like gentle spirits, you know? They watch anime, you know? They wouldn't be down to like brawl. But if the G2 players were ever in a fight, you know, if they were in a gang war or something, I would fight with them, by the way. I would fight with them. I have a lot of respect for what they've done this year. If you had to pick a team to take a game off G2 from LEC, who you're taking? Mad Lions. That's the thing. I would still take Mad Lions. No matter how shit Mad Lions are gonna play, the upside of some of their individual players in the right roles will let them play a game that is like at a high enough standard to actually beat out G2. Okay. Which of your team would you bet on in a street fight? All players have to join. Alright, so let's think about the big boys, okay? Let's think about the big boys. I think Limit. Limit is like... he's got that dog in him. Limit. I got just the fact that XL have Limit. I think XL is the street fighting team here, man. Leader Chechnya, but you have like Pretty Boy Finn. You think Pretty Boy Finn will let someone punch his face? Pretty Boy Finn. Yeah, I think it's XL, guys. I think you pick XL. You just want Limit on your team, man. You just want Limit on your team. I feel like Abadage and Patrick, they look like fit enough, you know. They got that cardio. I think Oda would do well, yeah. But yeah, I think that's enough for the LEC rundown. Good to see you, Mephisto. Also, Freeze said hello earlier, but I just ignored him. I don't know why. I think I was in the middle of my thoughts. Hello, if you're still here, man. Sorry.